Still, the other night, I parked in off of Sepulveda, and I got something to eat, and I'm sitting there in my car. Nobody's on the street. I'm at like a park meter, and it's real quiet, real dark, and I'm like, okay, I'll eat, listen to the radio a little bit, go to sleep. About 5 minutes in, I'm eating, and this car pulls all the way up the street, right behind me, parks right behind me. My lights are off, my engine's running because it's cold out. And I'm idling there, and he parks up right behind me, gets out of his car, walks around to the passenger side, and leans his butt against it, and he's talking on the phone. I can hear him talking on his wireless mic. And he starts pissing. I'm like, whatever. So I'm just sitting there, and he stops pissing. He continues to talk for about 5 minutes. And by that time my car's warmed up, I turn the heater off and the radio's gone. He gets back in his car, starts it up, turns on the car, turns on the light, and puts the brights on right behind me. Backs up, pulls up to the side of my window on the driver's side, and just does that to me. I'm like, fuck you! And he's like, fuck you! His window's up, but I can see him mouthing it. And so he just drives away. And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, that motherfucker. I said, fuck it, I'll fuck with him. I start my car up. He turns the corner, I turn the corner right behind him. I got my brights on right behind him. We're racing up the street, and I'm right behind this motherfucker, right? So then he decides to slam on the brakes. I slam on the brakes, almost smash him in the back. And I'm just sitting there, and he's looking in his mirror going, fuck you. And I'm like, fuck you, bitch, get out of the car. And he just sits there, and I can see him smiling, that smug fucking look on his face. And he just sits there. So we're sitting in the middle of the street for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden, I back up, and I try to go around him. He goes over in that lane and stops. And then I go to the left, and he goes over and fucking stops. I'm like, you motherfucker, get out of the car! And I'm screaming. He's like, fuck you, and he takes off again. So he goes around the corner, and I'm around the corner, and this time, I was just fucking with him, right? I was just fucking with him. But this time I want to fucking break his head. So he's going around the corner, we're going down the street, and he slams his brakes on again, and I slam my brakes on, and I'm like, you motherfucker! I reach back in the back here, and I grab my bat, because I got this aluminum bat from softball. And I'm just waiting for him to see what he does. So then he backs up real fast, and then slams his brakes on, and almost hits the front of my car. And I'm like, fuck this. I get out of the car, and I said, motherfucker, get out of the car. And he's sitting in his car, and I can see him flipping me off again. So then he revs his car, goes up forward, then he comes back again. So I take a swing, like back in the day when I was like smacking home runs, and I was aiming for the back window. But I hit the side of the metal there, put a big dent in it. So I fucking jump in my car, because I'm like, fuck! Because a month ago, I kicked some guy's rear view mirror off because he was fucking with me, and I got in trouble for it. So I'm like, fuck, I got to get out of here before this guy gets my license number. So I jump in my car. It's an SUV, so it doesn't go that fast. And I'm going around the corner. I don't see him. I'm like, yeah. So I decide to go on the highway, 405 North. And I'm speeding through everything, and I'm just going as fast as I can, right? A couple minutes later, I see this car all the way in the back, like half a mile away, just... This is at night, right? So I can see the lights going. And I'm like, fuck, it's that motherfucker. So I'm speeding, and here he comes. He's got this night, he's got this like Altima or something. And he's right on my ass, and I'm like, fuck. And we're going right up the 405 North. The Sepulveda exit's right here. There's a car right here. I'm here, and he's on the side here. And I'm like, okay, fuck this guy. Oh, fuck. And I'm like, okay, fuck this guy. And here comes a car. Let me wait till this car goes. Okay, fuck you. Anyway, so I'm right here. There's a car here, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get in front of this car over here on the right, and I'm gonna dart over onto this Sepulveda. So we're racing up, and he's coming up on the side of me, and I'm right in front of this car on the right of me, and all of a sudden I see this guy put the brakes on, and he's fishtailing, and he goes behind the other car, and he's right on my ass, right? I'm like, fuck! I turn right, go down Sepulveda, and right as I turn, there's a cop car who pulled someone over. Lights are shining. I'm like, fuck. This guy comes up behind the side of me and speeds up and goes like about 5 cars in front of the cop car and stops. I'm like, I gotta stop and get out first. So So I go up right behind the cop car, slam on my brakes. These two cops grab their guns and they draw them because they don't know what the hell's going on. And they're pointing at me. I'm like, yo, this dude up here, man, he tried to run me over. And they're like, calm down, because I'm like going nuts. And there's one cop says, get on the sidewalk. And his other cop says, you mean that the tan car? I'm like, yeah, this motherfucker tried to run me over. And so he says, wait right here. And he walks up, and that guy just takes right off. And the other guy said, what happened? It was a black cop. And I said, well, this guy was fucking with me. He says, why'd you get out of your car? And I said, because I didn't know what he was going to do. And then when he backed up towards me, I just whacked him with the bat. And the cop looks at me and smiles and says, look, do me a favor. He says, get out of here. He says, you don't want to make a report out of this because you attacked him. I'm like, yo. So this is the life of an independent filmmaker. Someone that sleeps in his car and has to chase people down. It's fucked up. Anyway, I'm out. Later.